we are deferring to a Supreme Court Miller test, and we can't protect our kids from porn here in Tennessee. How insane is that? I mean, that irritates me. But so he says you can't do it for criminal and you can't do it for civil. So Senator Stevens, when can we do it? House Bill 2159 had to do with obscenity and pornography in schools. Talk about the intent of this bill, the status, and let's talk about how it ended up and who opposed it.
So that was an obscenity bill that was actually a two-part bill. We had 2159 and 2160, and I ran those bills with Senator Paul Rose from Covington, Tennessee. And the 2160 was requiring age verification on pornographic websites. Now, we ended up passing an age verification bill that was sponsored by Representative Patsy Hazelwood, but that bill only related to the criminal part of the code, created a criminal crime. My bill was trying to deal with it from the civil side. It was going to create a civil cause of action through the Consumer Protection Act, which would give the Attorney General the authority to file a civil lawsuit for violations of that, and then also allow us as private citizens to have a private cause of action. As you can tell, there's a theme with me. I think citizens should be able to take matters into their own hands through the court system and have access to that, and not have to rely on an elected DA who may not want to run a case that he doesn't think he can win. And so, unfortunately, leadership kind of chose, and really on the Senate side, that's one of the bills that my Senate sponsor didn't even get a motion or a second on, that age verification bill, because leadership decided that they were going to run with the Becky Massey and Patsy Hazelwood bill and not touch mine. Even though I tried for months to try to get them to merge the two bills together, because they really could do the same thing. It could have been a great bill if we'd merged both of them together and tackled both, taking care of two birds with one stone. But that left us with 2159, which again was just a simple thing that allowed a civil right of action for a private citizen to be able to sue any person that violated the criminal obscenity statute in Tennessee. So a couple years ago, we created a law in Tennessee that says it's illegal to produce, distribute, deliver any type of obscene materials into the state or around the state. It's not specific to schools in general, but it did kind of take in under the umbrella of the school system as well. And again, what we're seeing is district attorneys and law enforcement. The obscenity law is an area that's murky at best, and it's just not something that gets a lot of votes for district attorneys. They want to get the cases that they want to put rapists away and murderers and things like that and get good convictions. When you're spending a lot of time to prosecute some publisher that's maybe out of state, I don't know that gets a lot of splash for them and doesn't generate a lot of votes for them. So what I want to do is create an avenue for us to take it into our own hands. And for whatever reason, again, my Senate sponsor, Paul Rose, I got it passed, marched it through the House. I had all kinds of sponsors. I think we had every single member of the Republican caucus signed on to that bill as a co-sponsor.
In the House.
In the House side. And then my Senate sponsor, when he presented the bill, he claimed that we had some sort of typographical error or drafting error, and that the law needed to be changed to say, instead of you being able to sue for a violation of that criminal statute, you could only sue if there was a criminal conviction under that statute, which once again put the citizen at the mercy of a district attorney, of actually taking up a case and prosecuting it and going through the years of time that it would take to get a conviction before you would have a right to sue for civil damages for that. So the issue that I had is that that obviously defeated the purpose of the bill, and it would leave us in a situation where if you had a teenage daughter whose photograph ends up on the web somewhere and is being exploited, you literally had no avenue to go after the folks that were exploiting your teenage daughter unless your district attorney decided to get on board and try to do something criminally. I tried to make that argument to my friends in the Senate, so they passed their amended version. I refused to adopt their version, and so we went back and forth and ended up in conference. And in conference, again, I tried to make this argument as to why we needed that bill to stay the way it was originally drafted. I made it very clear that it was not a drafting error; it was intentional. And Senator Stevens, John Stevens, intimated to me that one of the big concerns that they had in the Senate side of things is that, well, this was just going, the way it was drafted originally was going to create a lot of frivolous lawsuits, and the only people that were going to make out on that were the trial attorneys, and it was just going to make things too difficult for the business people. To which I said, that's kind of the point of the bill. The whole idea is we want Tennessee to be a place where people don't want to do that kind of business.
Right.
They don't want to distribute obscene materials. They don't want to produce it and project it and deliver it into our state because they might get sued and they might have huge civil damages as a result of it. And I could not get that through to the members of that committee, that conference committee, which included Senator Stevens and Lundberg.
Is that the state and local government subcommittee, committee, state and local government committee on the Senate side?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, Senator Briggs runs that one, if I remember correctly.
Actually, you know what? Take that back. It went through judiciary because it was Todd Gardenhire was the chairman of the committee that set it up for Senator Rose to be able to make the amendment. And when I went to talk to Senator Gardenhire about it, he wouldn't have anything. He wouldn't have a conversation with me about it.
Wouldn't even talk to you?
No, like not even wouldn't even talk to me about it, what the issue was. I found out later that there was a lobbyist firm that went into his office and met with him. Somebody else just happened to be in the room at the time waiting to meet with him and overheard the conversation. But yeah, a lobbyist firm went in there to meet with him about that bill in particular and wanting to get that amendment made because they were worried about some of their clients were worried that they were going to have some exposure.
So they were worried that some of their clients that were distributing porn and obscenity, and this was was not just for school. This was not just on school grounds, but this was just in general. But if it involved minors, it had to involve minors. You
got it. That's right.
And they were worried about that. And Senator Stevens, did he say who he was worried about this hurting? Just businesses in general?
He wouldn't name a specific business or industry that he was worried about. He just said that the trial lawyers were just going to make a bunch of money off it.
Okay. You know, here's the thing on that, and I want to get some clarification on this other legislation you talked about. But last year, we talked, myself, several other people involved in the GOP at different levels, had a phone conversation with Senator Stevens in reference to a bill that was passed by Senator Lynn in 23, I believe. And that bill was basically to keep obscenity and pornography, made it illegal to have it on school grounds. Okay, and there was a criminal penalty. It was made a felony, I don't remember what level. And that one's not being enforced because, like you said, the DAs, for whatever reason, don't like it. Now, one of the things that Senator Stevens told us was, well, it's got to pass. There's a Supreme Court test that was created years ago on the whole obscenity, and I cannot remember the name of the test. The Miller test. The Miller test, yeah. They had, well, you got to use the Miller test, and this is just not a good law. And I'm thinking to myself, we are deferring to a Supreme Court Miller test, and we can't protect our kids from porn here in Tennessee. How insane is that? I mean, that irritates me. But so he says you can't do it for criminal and you can't do it for civil. So Senator Stevens, when can we do it? That's my question. When can we do it? When can we protect our kids? I mean, we're talking kids here. We're not talking adults.
And what I really couldn't understand in the whole thing with Senator Stevens in particular being a lawyer, I mean, filing a lawsuit right now, or passing a bill that might get challenged, is not the worst thing in the world with the Supreme Court that we currently are dealing with. This is the time now where we need to push the envelope on some of these things, even if we think that they might get challenged and taken up, because we are in the catbird seat when it comes to the Supreme Court. It's not going to be that way forever. So we need to make hay while the sun is shining, and we need to pass some bills that we want somebody to sue us on. We want these things to get taken up so that we can establish some precedent that's going to help us stand the test of time going forward.
And if your standard is we might get sued, you won't stand for anything, because anybody can sue anybody over anything. So
100%.
that's just a coward BS excuse is all that is. Oh, okay. So I do want to clarify something, though. You mentioned Senator Massey and Representative Hazelwood passed a bill related to the criminal aspect of this.
So their bill was age verification required for pornographic websites. Now, again, pornography and obscenity are two different things.
Right.
Pornography is protected by the First Amendment. Obscenity is not. So their bill required an age verification for pornographic websites to allow parents to be able to have some sort of control over whether or not these websites are getting through. But it was basically dealing with and creating some criminal code and criminal penalties that for the carrier, not necessarily the carriers, but the websites themselves, if they failed to put any of those age verification checkpoints or safety protocols in place.
Okay.
My bill that was kind of mirroring that didn't deal with the criminal portion of the code. It dealt with the Tennessee Consumer Protection Act that said if you do business in Tennessee and you don't have age verification on your website, then the state of Tennessee can sue you for damages and come at you under the Consumer Protection Act. And also, any citizen that was individually damaged can also come forward with that.
Okay.
And I worked on both of these bills, both these civil right of action for violation of the criminal code and this age verification bill for almost a year with Jamison Taylor of American Family Alliance or American Family Action.
Yep.
And so we modeled this at what happened in Louisiana and Oklahoma and Texas and how those bills had been challenged. And so we had really strong language that we were comfortable with if we had any type of legal challenge after getting it passed, that we were ready to go forward and defend that. And again, I tried to have some conversations with the folks that were running the other bill, try to marry those languages together, put them together with Mr. Taylor and AFA and see if we couldn't make things even better. Put my bill and their bill together, take the best parts and have a super bill. But there was no interest in doing that, particularly on the Senate side.
And theirs would have required a DA to have prosecuted, correct?
Yeah. Again, it creates criminal offenses, which the criminal offenses are going to have to be prosecuted by a district attorney.